Hello students, in this video we'll see an example of how to find the inverse of a 3 by 3 matrix. Let's consider the matrix A, which is 1, 0, 1, and then 2, 1, 1, and then 3, 2, 2. Let's find the inverse of A. Find A inverse. Okay, so of course the idea is to augment A with the identity matrix. So here's our augmented matrix. 1, 0, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 2, 2. Augment with the identity. And now my goal is to perform row operations, and if we can perform row operations and reduce this first left 3 by 3 matrix into the identity, what's left on the right 3 by 3 matrix will be the inverse, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do two steps simultaneously. So we'll do this. The first row operation we're going to do over here is we're going to do negative 2 row 1 plus row 2. That's going to be my new row 2. And then negative 3 row 1 plus row 3. That's going to be my new row 3. So let's see what we get over here. The first row stays the same. And then I'm doing negative 2 row 1 times plus row 2. So that's going to induce a 0 over here. Nothing over here, so that 1 stays the same. The negative 2 plus 1 is going to be a negative 1 over here. Negative 2 times 1 is a negative 2, so I'm going to put a negative 2 over here, a 1, and then a 0, like so. Do the same thing over here. That's going to give me a 0 over here because that negative 3. Nothing over here, so that stays put at 2. And then negative 3 times 1 plus 2 is going to be another negative 1 over here. And then we have a negative 3 down over here, then a 0, and then a 1, like that. That's our first step over here. So that's the first part of my echelon form. Now, as you can imagine, what we'll do is we're going to do negative 2 row 2. I'm going to do negative 2 row 2 plus row 3. And that's going to give me my, that's going to zero out that 2 down over there. So the first row stays the same, 0, 1, 0. And then 0, 1, negative 1. 1, 0, 0, negative 2, 1, 0. And then we'll get a 0 over here, a 0 over here. I'm doing a negative 2 turns into a positive 2. Positive 2 and negative 1 is a positive 1. That's great. And then what will happen over here? So I'm doing negative 2 row 2. So that's going to be a positive 4 plus 3. Positive 4 plus 3 is going to be a 1. Okay. And then this is going to be a negative 2 plus 0. It's going to be a negative 2. And then the 1 stays put like that. And now we've got into ordinary echelon form, right? So now I see my echelon form over here. So we're in echelon form. Now all we need to do is limit the ones we like to work backwards and put into reduced row echelon form. So this is in row echelon form, but we want to put this into echelon form now, reduced row echelon form. So what we'll do now is we're going to do row 3 plus row 2. So we're going to do row 3 plus row 2. That will zero out that. So row 1 is going to stay the same for the time being. Row 3 is going to stay the same. Okay, now what will happen in row 2 is you're going to turn into a 0, a 1, and a 0. But now I'm doing row 3 plus row 2, so that is going to turn into a negative 1, like that. And then that's going to be a negative 1 like that. Okay? And then a what? And then a positive 1 up here. Great. And the final step we'll do, the final step, is going to be to do negative row 3 plus row 1. So row 3 stays the same. Row 2 stays the same. And finally, we're going to do a negative row 3 plus row 1. That's going to turn that into a 1, 0, 1. And a 0, of course, 0. And now, when we do that, so that's going to zero out that. Things with the identity now. And so now I'm doing negative row 3 plus row 1. That's going to turn into a 0 over there. And then that's going to turn into a positive 2, like that. And that's going to turn into a negative 1, like so. Okay? And so this matrix over here should be the inverse of our matrix A. So that's going to be A inverse. That is A inverse. And so let's just check, right? So let's do our matrix A times this A inverse just to check to make sure what we did was correct. So we're going to have a 1, 0, 1. Here's our check. 1, 0, 1, 2, 1, 1, and then 3, 2, 2. We're going to hit that with what? We're going to hit that with a 0, 2, negative 1, negative 1, negative 1, 1, and then a 1, negative 2, 1. Okay? And so what are we going to get over here? We're going to get a 1 in the first row. Then what's going to happen? I'm going to get a 0 and a 0. So far, so good, right? Then we're going to get a what? Second row column. That's going to be a what? A 0. Then a what? Then a 4. then the 5. Let's see, so that we can get a 4, then a 3, then a minus 2. It's going to give me a 1. Good. And then let's see, a 2, and then a 2. That gives me a 0. And let's see, a 0, and then put a 0 over there. And then what we'll have over here, we're going to have a 6, and then minus 2, and then minus 4. That gives me a 0. And then finally, we're going to have a negative 3 plus 4. That gives me a 1. So indeed, we get the identity over here. And so this is actually our inverse. So A inverse is exactly equal to what? Is exactly equal to 0, 2, negative 1, negative 1, negative 1, 1, 1, negative 2, 1. And we found the inverse of a 3 by 3 matrix in this example. Thank you very much.